Yeah boy, yeah boy, yeah boy. Welcome to Watch Me Build It in an Irish winter wonderland. That isn't snow. That is last night's frost. And the sun is setting behind me now. So it hasn't had a chance to melt all day. We're here. It is the NMK 939 build video. It's been coming for some time, isn't it? In a few moments, we're going to head into the build. This is quite an in-depth build. It's an instructional build. I've done this video specifically for those of you who bought the kit and who are wanting to build one for Christmas, and you're wanting to know how to do that well. So it's going to be a longish video, a little bit of housekeeping. Have you subscribed to this channel? Please do. Have you given this a like? Press the like button, press the notification bell so that you get notified of new videos. Do all of the good YouTube stuff. I need to put a little bit of information in here. When I received my NMK 939 case, I had trouble turning the bezel, and I decided to do an intervention to remove the bezel and to reinstall it. And somehow in the process of doing that, I managed to warp my own bezel. I did a bad job somehow. So I'm still going to build the watch, and it's not going to be a clickety-click bezel. I'm not going to be able to turn it. Namoki have kindly forgiven my stupidity, and they're sending over another case and bezel so that we can see what the proper ones look like. If you've bought one of these case sets and it arrives, just check the bezel when it does get there. Make sure it turns smoothly all the way around. They say they've had one or two complaints, but by and large, everything is fine. If you do have trouble, get in touch with Namoki right away. Their service is excellent. But other than that, here we go. The NMK 939 build by Watch Me Build It. Before we get going, I want to remind you that there are affiliate links for Namoki below this video. If you use the code WMBI15 before the end of 2022, you'll get a 15% discount. At any other time, use the code WMBI5 for a 5% discount in the store. So the parts on the schedule today, we begin with the blue dial, silver snowflake hands, and the Aegean blue bezel insert. I've chosen the slimline case back. Here we have the BB58 homage case, which I've already reviewed. We've got a Seiko NH35 movement over here, 2 fat spring bars, and the rivet strap that comes with the set. I've got the stem over here, which we will be cutting today. Tools we'll be using, as always, I've got pegwood and tweezers. We've got our hand setting tools over here. This is for tightening up the case back. I have the adhesive ring, the 3M adhesive ring that comes as part of this pack, as well as GS Hypo Cement for fixing the bezel insert. I'm going to be using the Hypo Cement, not the ring. Got Rodico, got a little bit of Loctite for when we install the crown to the stem, a movement holder, a bit of oil and an oiler. And then because we're cutting the stem, a long nose pliers and a side cutters. Back at the back here, you'll see some black sandpaper. That's for sanding down the end of the cut stem. There's our puffer to blow away dust, our case holder, a cloth to protect that from damage or to use wherever else we might have an interface with delicate parts. This is to lubricate the case back gaskets, and this is the movement cushion. I have forgotten. There we go. That is a set of 3 case back gaskets. So there we go. Those are the parts we will be using for our build today. Right, so phase 1 is pairing the dial with the movement. What do we do first? First of all, we put the dial aside and we take a look at our movement. First, we check that it winds. You can feel it buzz as you're winding, and you can even hear it. 1 click out, we should get quick date set. Another click out. I want you to look carefully at this part of the black wheel. That advances the date. As we wind the time on, you'll see it there picking up. You see how it picks up, and then you go click, click, click. One little bit at a time until it clicks. and we leave it right there because we're working with the no date movement. We've only got one chance to set that like that. It's absolutely irrelevant, but if you're a little bit OCD, that's a good thing to know about. Now we're going to put our movements aside, and we're going to bring this one in. When you are preparing a dial for a 3 o'clock position build, you remove the lower tabs. So that tab there, and then the one directly opposite, which is the upper tab on this side. So the lower tab on the 3 o'clock side is what you remove, and then the one that's directly opposite, that's what you're going to remove. So removal, remember we don't cut these feet off. We bring our long nose pliers in, grab this, just turn this, and you will break the weld. Yes? There we go. Foot dispensed. Now we see that's the other one we marked. There we go. Second foot off. Now I bring in a bit of tissue paper that they wrap the dial in, so it's pretty handy. Okay, so this is Namoki's transport protection for the dial. We're doing this because this is going to release some very fine dust, and we don't want that all over our bits and pieces. So what we do is we come in here where the dial foot was with our little pin file, which can be bought at a hardware store. File it down. Now, don't disturb the dial or the paper, rather just rotate it. So you can access this one. And away you go, same story. Right. Gently, I would even use my pliers to lift the dial. Give the dial a puff. Actually, first take the paper away with the debris. Give the dial a puff your mat, and we'll have a close look now with the Rodico to clear that out. Right, bringing the movement back. Now it's really just a simple case of dropping the dial onto the movement. So just to recap, that little hole in the grey ring and that little hole in the grey ring, that's where the two dial feet are going to find their place. So we drop it in like this, and then it's really just a case of pressing it in, and you check that it's sitting flush. There we go. Step 1 complete. Step 2, now we bring in our hand set. I use Rodico to place my hands, and then we've got the hand setting tools that we'll keep to the side and bring them in as we need them. And I'll tell you which color you need for which hand. So before we do anything here, we're going to go after any debris on this dial. Just checking the indices are great. Just a little point to make, maybe for Namoki, for some feedback. I have noticed that some of these indices, the loom plots are off center. So you see the margin, the silver margin is not the same on both sides. Just a small comment. It's one of those things you only see when you're looking at it through a loop. Right. My hand stuck to the underside of the container. No worries. Just work gently with them. So we're loading up to put the hour hand on, and I'm using my green tipped tool. Okay, everyone kind of has their own way of doing this. The younger guys with steady hands use tweezers, and I really admire them for that. I'm an older guy with shaky hands. I use a bit of Rodico to hold the hand. There we go. So now it's loosely on. I'm going to do two things before I press. One, I'm just going to use the tool to make minor adjustments to ensure I'm plumb center. Right. Give it a bit of a press. And then I want to have a look and see if I'm parallel. No, not yet. All right, that's seated nicely. If you have a close look, the hour hand just passes the index. So what I want to do is make sure I am clearing these taller indices, and thank goodness I am. So that's 12 o'clock. I'm going to be careful here. You should hear the date change. There, I felt it. It's just before 12. Not really relevant because we can't see it. Now, I just ensure I'm exactly aligned before I drop the minute hand in. The minute hand is going to use the black tip, and we really use the same procedure. Pick it up with a piece of Rodico, bring it over the pinion. I even heard that click. Just want to, there we go, get it exactly like that. Wow, these are really, the clearance is really tight on these, but that's great. It's clearance, it's not fouling. All the way around. Let's see, we can now feel the date change and see how far off I was. There, date changed about there, about like 9 minutes before. Doesn't really matter if it was a date movement. I would be going in and changing things up. What matters most to me is this, that we've got great alignment. Favorite, but we're going to use the blue tip for this. It's not my favorite because it's got a dish in it. And really you want a flat-ended setting tool for this part of the job, because the dish can bend the second hand. But a very similar story. You want to bring it over the pinion. Okay, I think we're loosely there. Yeah, we're on the pinion. What I'm going to do, like, I don't know if I'd recommend this, but this is the way I'm doing it. I'm actually using my pegwood to press it on. And this is to avoid that sort of situation that I was speaking about. Now my pegwood's left a little bit of residue there. There we go, we seem to be on well. Now I'm just going to use my Rodico to generally give a cleanup, but here we go. Magic moment, folk. Are you ready? Let's do a 10 to 2. There it is. Hand set and off we go. It didn't take us very long. Just do some careful cleaning of these hands. Right, so I'm happy my case and dial are dust free. Now we have a bit of a fiddly part, and it's removing the stem. So you take your dial, you flip it over. Do this very gently so as to not interfere with those hands. Don't press it all the way in, just enough to hold it sort of snugly. And then what you're going to do is you're going to release the stem, and there's a little hole over there. You're going to want to press that down with your set of tweezers. And as it's down, you can remove your stem. Now you can use your tweezers to gently lift this out again. And then what you do is you bring this, place it on the movement cushion. Right, now remove the crown. There's nothing on that crown yet. We're going to put that on now. Give this another puff. One last check for dust or debris or anything like that. Another puff on your dial. Right, then you drop it over. The first time you start to see your watch, gently turn it and you press it into place. Okay. What I would suggest is you get this part under the crown tube first. And once you can see that crown tube clear, then you come and give it a press on the other side. Until you're in. Okay, that seems firm. The way that you check is you come and have a good look and ensure there's no gap between the dial and the ray height. All right, that's looking solid. Great, so that's that phase over. Okay, next phase is cutting of the stem. Here we go. Okay, hold it in the long nose pliers. Screw on the crown. It's important that you screw the crown as tightly as you can here, because that affects the distance. And that distance is the whole deal about the cutting of the stem. We come in here and we install the stem. Remember, when you're installing, gently turn it slowly until you feel it's starting to wind. Then you can push it. And you know that it's in because you can pull it out to the two positions. Right, now, as is obvious, the stem's a bit long. So what we're going to do is we're going to measure the distance from just on the inside of this tube to the flat edge of the crown. And that's the distance we're going to want to remove. So here's how it's going to work. You have a stem which has a length, and we are wanting to remove a particular portion and retain a particular portion. So that's the calculation we're going to be doing now. .5 mil is what we are wanting to remove. Now we need to know how long is the stem and how long does it need to be. So the easy way to know how long the stem is to take it out. Always ensure that you're in the winding position when you do those measurements. Press down, remove stem, and then you use your long nose pliers to take the crown off. Right, so there's the stem. Now we're gonna measure the stem with our vernier. .6. So the stem is 21.6. So we want to know how long is this? 21.6 minus 6.5. 11 minus 6 is 5. So 15.1 is what we're wanting over here. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to draw this out to scale on this piece of paper so that I've got a physical measure of how long this lot needs to be. So how do we draw this out to scale? I begin with a line. Then I bring the stem along and I make sure that the point of the stem touches the inside of the line. Now I'm going to draw another line and ensure that it starts where that ends. That should then be 21.6. Come along and measure. Indeed, that's 21.6. 21.6. Now, I reduce this until I get 6.5. Right, there's 6.5. Remember, the inner edge of the line must line up with where that needs to be. Right, so if we do that, this is what needs to be removed, and this is what needs to remain. Right. Now, in my infinite wisdom, I failed to record this portion on this build, so I'm splicing this in from a different build. I'm now marking out on the stem where I need to cut. I'm making a gentle impression on the stem where I will cut, and then they say you should measure twice and cut once. I'm first going to confirm against my scales sketch that my intended cut point is in the right place. Let's zoom in here. Yes, I'm happy it is where it needs to be. And since I'm happy, I can make a commitment and make that cut. Okay, I've got a cloth because this gets dusty. And there's another tool I never mentioned. It's a pin vise. It holds your stem nicely. And then we just make a couple of circles. I'm going to count out 20. Yeah, I think that will work. So now what you're wanting really is you're just looking for a finish where that's going to screw on without you needing to force it. No, not biting quite nicely. And then if I kind of do this, it sort of rounds off the edges. Okay, let's have a look and see if we're there yet. Okay, that's screwing on easily enough. Screwed all the way in. Solid turn, there we go. Okay, and again, slowly, a little bit of a turn. There you can see it winding. Give it a press, right. So what are we looking for now? If we press and turn, it should find the thread. Should be able to fasten this all the way down. It seems to be doing well. I'm going to have a look myself. So, I don't know if you can see it's not seated up against the case. So we need to take it out and give it quite a bit more grind so that it seats nicely. This is a bit of a laborious process. You want to do it slowly. You want to go a little bit by little bit because you really want to achieve the situation where you adjust the right length. If it's too short, it's problematic. And if it's too long, it's just really not high quality building. So I'm going to do quite a bit more grinding till I get there. Right, so we've had it in and out a few times. And it's winding on. And it's seated right up against the case. Great, so now we're ready for the final stage of the build. Right, moving into the final phase on the back of the watch. A few things we're going to do. First of all, we're going to remove the stem one last time. Right, there we go. We've got a tiny drop of Loctite. Unscrew the crown. Dip the end in the Loctite. Screw it back on again. Well, I want to oil 2 places. So I've got my little bottle of oil. I've got my oiler. The first place I'm going to oil is the crown tube. going to drop a little bit of oil on there. And in the second place I'm going to oil is the stem itself. I'm going to just drop oil on this part of the stem that goes into the keyless works. Our final installation. There you can see it turning. And we can close that up. Now we grab our puffer. Give the watch a good puff. Grab our Rodico. Look, I saw a little fingerprint over there. Just have a look, take your time. Nobody will ever see this except the next watch guy that opens your watch. Now I'm going to lubricate the gasket. Case back gasket that comes with your parts. There we go. Bring that back in place. Drop this in. This gasket was in a packet, so a little bit bent out of shape. I'm now aware of the fact that I'm touching this gasket with my gloves. So I want to wipe them off, because that silicone gets all over the place. It can make your build smudgy. Right, you see this gasket going out of shape. I might need to take a different approach with this gasket and stretch it onto the case back itself. Right, what we're going to do with the case back is I'm going to drop a little bit of lubricant onto the thread. A little drop will go a long way. Right, I'm going to actually see if I can stretch this gasket over the case back instead of putting it inside the case, because it's a little bit out of shape. So this will be a better route to take. Right, let's try this and see how we get along. Okay, threading a case back, gentle is the way. You can feel it's going in, and you should be able to do this with your fingers without forcing it. If you can, you're in good space. Right, we're almost there. What we do now is we want to insert this case in the case holder. Let's just open it up and drop it in that way around. Right, this is just so that you can get some torque when you're fastening the case back on. Now we use this tool. We use that wheel to adjust these pinions, and you want the pinions to go in to grooves on the opposite side of the case. Right, there we go. And now you just use it to torque it up. Okay, now for the bezel inserts, as promised, I'm going to use GS Hypo Cement rather than the adhesive strip for a simple reason. Okay, so my Hypo Cement doesn't work. The needle didn't stay in there, it's come here. So I'm just going to use it to grab a drop here and drop it onto the bezel like that. Now, this Hypo Cement is stringy stuff. Take heart. The string is easy to clean off. You've got to be sure to clean it off after, but it comes off easily before it sets. Well, that was a bit too much. A bit juicy, that grab. Okay, so I'm just kind of putting it at 4 places. I'm going to be replacing this bezel, and it's just easier to get them out. If they're in with Hypo Cement, heat them up and you can lift them off. It's not such a big deal. Those 3M things are quite a mission. And then the nice thing about when you're using Hypo Cement is that you actually have a little bit of latitude with the insert. So what I do when I'm going to drop an insert in, let me do it this way around, is I focus on that point going in exactly at the 12. So if I can drop that in perfectly in line. That's looking good. Then I come around to check that I'm aligned with the 9 and the 3. And with a hypo cement, you've got a bit of latitude. This is quite a tight fit bezel, which is good news. Okay, to give it a bit of a press to get it seated. But there we go. There's your first look at the BB58 blue build by Namoki. Remember the golden rule, the buckled side goes at 12 o'clock. So there's 12 o'clock. We're going to turn it over. Hope this fits like the other Namoki straps. Okay, you want to drop the lug in. Show you all the way in on the one side. And then just wiggle until it finds its home. Make sure it's all the way there. Press. Get it in here. And then just work it until it finds its position. It's in on the one side, but not yet on the other. Bring the screwdriver to help it along. All right, there we go. Thoughts from the bench on the BB58 homage or the NMK 939 blue. Here we go. I love this little buckle. It's nothing special, but it does the job well. It's safe. It's compact. It's got a milled portion on the scissor portion, but it is a pressed shell. But a great little buckle, and it does the job well. 3 points of micro adjust. The bracelet is well finished. I think Namoki have done a good job of doing an interpretation of a riveted bracelet. You can see over here more clearly than in my intro video that your adjustment pins don't have the rivet heads. So that is a bit of an anomaly. If that bugs you, then rather get an ordinary bracelet, although this bracelet is made to match this case. A nice bracelet, well finished, solid end links. Case back, very straightforward, but well finished. Circular brushing, polished edge, and I think it does the job well. This is the slimline case back, and it gives, I think it's 100 meters of water resistance, but all in all, really good. I like the case. The polished flanks are a plus and a minus. The minus is that they attract smudges and micro scratches. You can see I've already got micro scratches on there. Nothing to be done for that, except maybe get yourself a Cape Cod polishing cloth and keep it in great shape. The plus is character. For me, it's a criticism of the St. Martin watch is it is lifeless. It is sterile. This watch doesn't feel like that, and I was wondering why. And the polished flanks and the crystal, I think, are what do that. But great brushed lug tops, awesome fit between the case and the bracelet, a real win. I love the slimline coin edge bezel, but it's also the Achilles heel of this build at the moment because it's of its susceptibility to bending when people like myself get a hold of it. So I'm looking forward to receipt of the new one so that I can try it out and get the click sound going. But it does make this build so much more slender and so much, it kind of just gives it a far thinner profile. So I do like the bezel, and I'm looking forward to them getting it right. I like the bezel insert. Namoki, can you do a bead blasted or brushed one, please? That's going to come closer to the aluminium inserts on the original watch. Brushed Rayhout on the inside, kind of there with the original. I love the top hat sapphire. It really does bring extra shazz and pizzazz and snazz to this watch. I really think it adds something beautiful. It was a great choice, and I'm glad they did it. The dial is great. It would be great if maybe the printing was silver and the outer track was silver, but it does a good job. My criticism, it's one of the big flies in the ointment on this watch, is the fact that that blue and that blue do not match. I would like it if the blue on the dial was the Asian blue that is on the chapter ring. It's not the worst thing because the dark color frames the light color, but I would like it if they matched. The indices are really well executed. The hands are great. I just want to show you here. The second hand touches the second track. The minute hand, the loomed plot on the minute hand kind of matches the loomed plots on the indices. It is a bit longer. It just stretches out and touches the loom indexes or kind of hash marks, but I think it's well judged. And then the hour hand just comes over the elongated triangle and it touches the index over there. So it's a well-sized handset for this dial. It's great. They were made to go together like Rama Lama Lama. Final overall thoughts, a great build. I've enjoyed doing it. I like the outcome. I can't wait to get the black and gold bezel insert, black and gold dial, and show you what that looks like. If you live in Dublin or in County Kildare somewhere and you own the original of this or the original of the black and gold, give me a shout out, send me a DM on watchmbi@gmail.com. I'd like to hook up with you at some point and do a side-by-side comparison between these. But thanks, guys, and I'll catch you with the face-to-face final thoughts.
And so, what do you think? I really, really, really like this watch. In fact, I'm wearing it right now. I've been spending a bit of time thinking about it. And the thing I think this watch and this case set has is topography. It's actually got shape and form to it. The San Martin SN008G, which is kind of my default reference for an homage to the BB58, is actually rather flat, and it's got a flat bezel insert. It doesn't have a lot of curve to it. It doesn't have a lot of form to it. And that's, I think, what leaves me feeling like it's sterile. This one, on the other hand, is really, really good. And here's the other thing. If you don't like the mismatched color on the bezel and the dial, don't fear. There is so much that you can do with this case because it lends itself to a vintage build. In fact, that's what I'm going to be doing next. When the new case arrives, I think I'm going to be doing something that is an homage to not the BB58 in specific. I will do that so that you can see what that looks like. But I want to do something around the earlier Rolexes without the crown guards, with a big crown, with a red triangle on the bezel. And I think that's really where the value of this case set lies. You can do so much in homaging those older watches from the 1950s. But guys, thank you so much for your support. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to watch the next video. Cheers.